real deal begins now. Step 1. Housewarming. No need to buy toilet paper, diffusers or hand soap. You'll get them soon enough as housewarming gifts. And some are bound to pile up. There's nothing better to serve your guests than milpaeyu nabe. If you have Korean friends coming over, don't forget the extra garlic. Step 2. Garbage disposal. With great power comes great responsibility. You've had a good time, so let's get to work. It might be tempting to sweep everything into a trash can, but you have to separate your garbage. Not bothered? Beware that negligence is punished with a fine or public humiliation. Step 3. Drying rack. You're excited to live alone in Korea, but the fate of these items, hanger, storage, or a hanger. Go get fresh coffee outside. Jogging doesn't cost anything, and nothing beats instant rice. But keep one item around so that you don't get too lonely. Step 4. Pros of living alone. No mum. Cons of living alone. No mum. A new towel doesn't magically appear. You have to do the laundry regularly. If anyone gives a towel as a souvenir, take it. Get rid of mold immediately. Don't be lazy with the vacuum cleaner. Housework is an endless affair. Overwhelmed? Give your mum a call and thank her for everything she's done. Did you survive in your one room? Wait, you have an unwanted visitor. Call someone you fancy. Could be the right person for the job.
Global heritage will unite. We share brilliant values and honor the world's most cherished legacies to pass our heritage on to future generations. Busan invites you. The 48th session of UNESCO World Heritage Committee, July 2026, Busan, Korea.
In our headlines on this Monday, February 9th, here in South Korea, members of the Lee Jae-myung administration partake in 3 days of Q&As at the parliament starting today that touch upon a wide range of issues, including national security, diplomacy, economy, education, and culture. And the South Korean economy remains on its recovery path thanks to a rebound in domestic consumption and in the service industry, according to the latest assessment by the Korea Development Institute. In neighboring Japan, Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi is looking to stamp her mark in history as her party garners a 2/3 majority in the lower house snap election. We start with news of a three-day interpellation of the Lee Jae-myung administration that began on this Monday. For details on this, I have our National Assembly correspondent An Sung-jin live on the line. Sung-jin, welcome. So what is the latest there?
Right, Sunny. Just as you mentioned, the National Assembly this week kicked off 3 days of questioning government officials. The first day of questioning today focuses on politics, diplomacy, unification, and national security, with ministers from relevant government departments appearing before the National Assembly to answer questions. Now, today's session kicked off at 2:20 p.m., and with the session still underway, we are still in the process of hearing these government officials reply to lawmakers. And as anticipated, a fierce battle between the rival parties broke out. The ruling Democratic Party highlighted its credentials as a competent governing party, emphasizing progress on diplomacy, including the APEC economic leaders meeting. The main opposition People Power Party challenged the administration over high inflation and exchange rates, questioning the effectiveness of the government's so-called pragmatic diplomacy. The session on Tuesday will focus on the economy, and Wednesday's session is on education, social affairs, and culture, so we will have to keep an eye on how the rest of the sessions will unfold.
Sung-jin, beyond the interpellation, I understand another important item was on the agenda at the plenary session today.
Right. So during today's plenary session, by bipartisan agreement, lawmakers passed a motion that approves the formation of a special committee to discuss measures on the proposed Special Act on Strategic Investment with the U.S. This drafts Korean investment in the United States under a Korea-U.S. Tariff Agreement MOU.
Both negotiating parties made a decision to unite around national interests. I would like to notify the US government that the South Korean National Assembly is discussing the legislation with a strong commitment to swift action while fully adhering to domestic laws.
The committee will consist of 16 members, 8 from the ruling DP, 7 from the main opposition PPP, and 1 from a non-negotiating parliamentary bloc. At least 1 member will be drawn from each of the National Assembly standing committees on political affairs, finance, and startups. Lawmakers look to pass the bill by consensus within a month before the committee mandate expires on March 9th. Now, this move comes as South Korea faces continued tariff pressure from the Trump administration over what he calls stalled legislative efforts related to investment in the U.S. That's all I have for the latest at the National Assembly for the moment.
All right, Sung-jin, thank you for the latest from the Parliament. That was our correspondent An Sung-jin reporting live. Also on the local front, government officials and ruling party lawmakers have called for closer coordination on promoting policies to protect the housing market and to promote trade with the U.S. Our political correspondent Moon Hae-ryun covers Sunday's talks.
South Korea's ruling Democratic Party and the government have pledged tighter coordination and faster legislation as they held the first high-level party government policy coordination meeting of 2026. The meeting took place on Sunday at the Prime Minister's official residence in Seoul, bringing together senior officials from the party, the cabinet, and the presidential office to align priorities for President Lee Jae-myung's policy agenda. Democratic Party leader Chung Cheong-rae described 2026 as the starting point of what President Lee has called a great national transformation and leap forward. Key items on the agenda included a special bill to support Korean investment in the United States, which the ruling party says must be handled swiftly, aiming to pass the legislation by early March.
The special bill on investment in the United States must be handled urgently by the National Assembly to protect Korean companies facing uncertainty over the possible reimposition of U.S. tariffs.
Chung said the party plans to move quickly to approve the formation of a special parliamentary committee during Monday's plenary session and push the legislation forward. Another major issue was the planned establishment of a supervisory authority on real estate, aimed at cracking down on illegal practices that distort the housing market and harm ordinary citizens. Prime Minister Kim Min-seok called for a speed battle on legislation, warning that delays to the Special Act on Strategic Investment cooperation with the U.S. are already affecting follow-up measures in tariff negotiations. On real estate, Kim said normalization of the housing market is essential to shifting the economy towards productive investment, adding that the government plans to establish a supervisory authority on real estate. Presidential Chief of Staff Kang Eun-sik also stressed the importance of rapid legislation, urging the National Assembly to speed up the passage of key livelihood-related bills and pledging that the presidential office will also make every effort to move them forward. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, the South Korean economy remains on its recovery path amid a rebound in domestic consumption. This is according to the latest assessment by analysts at the KDI. Our correspondent Kim Do-yeon has more.
South Korea's state-run think tank, the Korea Development Institute, has reaffirmed that the economy is on a recovery path, driven largely by a rebound in domestic consumption and the service sector. In its February economic trends report released Monday, the KDI also stated that a moderate increase in production is being maintained. This assessment aligns with the Institute's shift in tone last November when it moved away from diagnosing the economy as sluggish or weak, terms used frequently between May and October of last year, to focusing on improvement. The data backs this optimism. Retail sales in December climbed 1.2% compared to the same period the previous year, continuing an upward trend for the fourth consecutive month. A significant 12.6% jump in passenger vehicle sales helped drive these figures. This also has to do with the recent historic rise in the KOSPI, some analysts say, as the sentiment also goes up.
When the stock market performs well and prices rise, we typically see a wealth effect. As the value of assets held by stock owners increases, we view this as a key factor that stimulates consumption.
Mirroring this consumption, service sector production rose 3.7%, marking 11 straight months of growth. The gains were broad-based with significant increases in wholesale and retail trade, as well as the professional, scientific, and technical sectors. Thanks to this service-led momentum, overall industrial production grew 1.8% in December. However, the recovery is not uniform. The manufacturing sector remains a weak link, contracting by 0.3%. The KDI noted that despite strong demand, semiconductor production was limited by supply constraints, while the auto sector faced headwinds from U.S. tariffs. More concerning is the continued slump in investment. Facility investment plummeted 10.3% in December, the sharpest decline since August 2023. The construction sector also remains in a prolonged downturn, with completed construction projects dropping by nearly 15% in the fourth quarter. Ultimately, while sluggish investment and construction weigh on the outlook, the KDI maintains that improving income conditions from the semiconductor cycle and strong consumer sentiment are supporting the broader economic recovery. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
In neighboring Japan, Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi is looking to make her mark in history as her party garners a two-thirds majority in the lower house. Our Lee Seung-jae covers this election result and its broader implications.
Sanae Takaichi and her ruling Liberal Democratic Party saw a landslide victory in Japan's general election on Sunday, securing a powerful supermajority in the country's lower house of parliament. According to results compiled by public broadcaster NHK, the LDP won 316 of the 465 seats in the House of Representatives in Sunday's vote. That is well above the 233 seats needed for a simple majority and marks the first time the party alone has achieved a two-thirds majority in the lower house. Before the election, the LDP held 198 seats. The latest win represents a gain of 118 seats and pushes the party past the two-thirds threshold of 310 seats, giving it significant legislative power. When combined with the 36 seats held by its coalition partner, the Japan Restoration Party, the ruling bloc now controls 352 seats, or about 75% of the chamber. That level of control ensures the coalition can secure all standing committee chair positions and majorities across committees. The supermajority also gives the ruling camp the ability to repass bills in the lower house, even if they are rejected by the upper house, strengthening the government's hand in pushing through legislation. On the policy front, Takaichi has pledged to suspend the 8% sales tax on food for 2 years to ease the burden of rising prices on households. She has also vowed to revise Japan's security and defense policies by December, aiming to strengthen the country's offensive capabilities, lift restrictions on weapons exports, and move further away from Japan's post-war pacifist stance. In addition, Takaichi has been advocating tougher immigration rules, including stricter requirements for foreign property ownership and a cap on the number of foreign residents. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
And here in South Korea, President Lee Jae-myung has conveyed his words of congratulations to Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi. In a social media post today, he hoped Japan would continue to prosper under Takaichi's leadership amid her coalition's victory in the lower house election. He also called for their two countries to broaden and deepen cooperation based on bilateral trust. And the president added that he looks forward to meeting Prime Minister Takaichi in South Korea soon as part of their back-and-forth summit diplomacy. North Korea is expected to host its ruling party Congress later this month. Our Kim Bo-kyung reports.
North Korea will hold its 9th Key Party Congress in late February, according to the regime's state-run Korean Central News Agency. The decision was made at the meeting of the Political Bureau of the ruling party's Central Committee on Saturday, with a resolution to convene the party Congress in Pyongyang unanimously adopted. A specific date was not given, but it is later than initially expected. The Party Congress is the regime's highest decision-making body, with North Korea being a one-party state where the ruling Workers' Party oversees all state institutions. The 9th Party Congress, the first Party Congress since 2021, is expected to assess the achievements of the past 5 years and outline key domestic and foreign policies for the next 5 years. Eyes are especially on what the regime leader Kim Jong-un might say about South Korea, the U.S., and how he plans to enhance his political status to consolidate his rule further. At Saturday's Politburo meeting, which was presided over by Party Secretary Cho Yong-won under Kim's guidance, members discussed and approved qualifications of delegates to the Party Congress, as well as the composition of the executive body, Presidium, and Secretariat. Kim Jong-un positively evaluated the preparations for the upcoming Congress and reportedly presented principles and specific tasks for its success. Recently, North Korea has been ramping up construction of factories, hospitals, and public service facilities, apparently as evidence of accomplishments in local development projects. Remaining projects are expected to be expedited ahead of the Congress. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
In other news, Defense Minister An Gyu-baek sat down with his Saudi Arabian counterpart Khalid bin Salman Al Saud in Riyadh on Sunday. During their meeting, the two countries' state-run defense research agencies signed an MOU to lay the foundation for a mutually beneficial and forward-looking partnership. Minister An invited his Saudi counterpart to South Korea, and after thanking the minister for the invitation, the latter also shared hopes for South Korea's experience and technical expertise to help boost Saudi Arabia's defense capabilities. Back here on the local front, 2 warrant officers died after their helicopter crashed in Gapeyong-gun County during training on this Monday. According to the military, the attack helicopter went down at around 11 a.m. and the cause of the crash remains unclear. The 2 crew members were transported to nearby hospitals but were later declared dead. The Army has halted operations of all AH-1S helicopters following this accident, and a task force has been formed to investigate the incident. Defense Minister An Gyu-baek over in Saudi Arabia received a report and has instructed swift follow-up measures. Progress in the field of robotics is taking place at a rapid pace, and here in South Korea, an annual show sought to share the latest innovations by those seeking to forge the future in this field. Our Kim Jun-hong was there.
Agile, dog-like robots stride along a slippery, snow-covered course. There's no joystick or human control. The robots rely on GPS-based autonomous systems to read their surroundings and decide where to go next, while trying to avoid their rivals and unprogrammed obstacles. A few steps away, the snow becomes a testing ground for disaster response. This drone uses cameras and sensors to detect the location of people stranded in the snow, climbs up steep slopes, and delivers essential survival supplies. Behind every robot are young engineers, students, and researchers. Held annually in Gangwon Province, the Korea Robotics Society annual conference marks its 21st year as the nation's largest robotics gathering. Fueled by AI-driven advances and heavy investment in humanoid robots by global tech giants, this year's conference has drawn around 2,000 aspiring engineers.
We previously focused on building conventional drones and aircraft, but with autonomous navigation and object recognition at core, this competition has expanded our research scope.
The spotlight this year was on artificial intelligence and humanoid robots. Developed by an undergraduate student, this robot turns an ordinary portrait into a caricature.
After I have exaggerated face, I will extract all the lines from the face, like the eyes, the nose, and the mouth, and then I will transmit all the data into the robot.
Using patterns it learned in advance, the AI extracts facial features and sends them to a robot that draws a slightly goofy yet charming caricature. Student-built robots are only one piece of a much larger research landscape. Across the venue, experimental systems and humanoid robots show what the future of robotics might look like.
The key to robotics lies in balancing softness and strength, and I believe Korea is already competitive at a global level. Just as important as building robots are strong component supply chains and commercialization capabilities. But with a solid manufacturing base, I am convinced of Korea's strong growth potential.
With humanoid robots and AI reshaping the industry, young dreamers are taking their first steps toward the next era of robotics. Kim Junong, Arirang News.
Come February 23rd, that is Monday, 2 weeks from today at 8 in the evening Korea Standard Time, reservations for the free tickets to BTS's comeback live show here begin on the website Noel Ticket. A global lucky draw will also be held for those who purchase the group's new album titled Arirang, which will be released on March 20th. Now, earlier, producer DJ Diplo revealed that he had taken part in this album. Moving forward, on March 21st, BTS will put on stage a comeback concert at Gwanghwamun Square, where some 260,000 people are expected to gather. Sijo is a Korean poetic form, and this past weekend, this ancient literature took the global digital stage. Our Chung Hye-rim explains.
The Sejong Cultural Society successfully hosted the second annual World Sijo Poetry Day celebration on February 7th. Broadcast live via YouTube and Facebook, the event showcased Sijo not just as a Korean relic, but as a living, breathing international art form. The event brought together poets and artists from across continents, highlighting the globalization of Sijo. For the opening, Sijo from two Korean masters, Hwangjini Im Jung-hwan and Sijo Chang poetry accompanied by bamboo flute and drum by Yang Sa-eun were performed. The following program featured Sijo written and recited in an array of native tongues. Beyond Korean and English, poets shared works in Hindi, Russian, Vietnamese, German, Isikosa, Portuguese, French, Lingala, and Spanish. These poets did more than translate. They adapted the 3-line, 45-syllable spirit of Sijo into the unique rhythms of their own languages. One of the highlights of the events was interviews with 95-year-old Allegra Silberstein and 91-year-old Marilyn d'Augustin, both of whom discovered a passion for Sijo late in life, proving that artistic growth has no expiration date.
And what's also fascinating about that is that, you know, when you have to think about syllables, carving your language in a certain way, that's very beautiful.
This year's celebration also looked firmly toward the future. AI-generated Sijo songs, Still American and Letter Never Sent, introduced new musical interpretations. Students from Chicago's Taft High School also presented visual artwork, which offered fresh perspectives inspired by the poetry. With its 2026 celebration now concluded, organizers say the event reaffirmed that this form of poetry is not only surviving but continuing to adapt and inspire on the global stage. 정혜림, Arirang News.
Hello and welcome. I am your AI sports correspondent, Arirang. This section features AI-generated content and scripts, bringing you the latest news from the Olympic Winter Games Milano-Cortina 2026. Here are our top stories. A 37-year-old veteran on Sunday shattered expectations to claim South Korea's first medal of the 2026 Winter Games. Snowboarder Kim Sang-kyum won a silver medal in the men's parallel giant slalom at Livingno Snow Park. Kim toppled world #1 Roland Fischler in the quarterfinals before finishing 0.19 seconds behind the gold in the final. This podium finish marks the 400th total Olympic medal for South Korea since 1948. Kim knelt in a deep bow on the podium after securing the nation's second-ever Olympic medal on snow. South Korea's mixed doubles curling team on Monday won a third round-robin match with a dominant performance. The duo of Kim Sun-young and Jung Young-suk defeated Canada with a 9-5 victory at the Cortina Curling Olympic Stadium. Despite an early deficit, the Korean pair executed a 3-point fort and to seize momentum. It's the third consecutive win for the pair. However, a 5-game losing streak at the start of the games has blocked the team's path to the semifinals. High school sensation Yoo Seung-eun on Monday ignited medal hopes in her Olympic debut. The teenage prodigy stormed into the women's snowboard big air finals by finishing in 4th place in qualifying. Yoo showed her technical precision, landing a 1,260 mute to lock in a total of 166.50 points. Yoo now enters the Tuesday morning final looking to push for a medal. American skiing icon Lindsey Vonn is recovering tonight after a high-speed crash cut her Olympic return short. The 41-year-old lost control just 13 seconds into her downhill descent on Sunday. Vonn clipped the gate and slammed into the safety nets. She was airlifted to a nearby hospital for surgery on a fractured left leg. The injury ends Vonn's bid to become the oldest alpine Olympic medalist in history. Before we head out, let's look ahead. Appearing now on your screen are the current medal standings and the upcoming schedule for the Olympic Winter Games Milano-Cortina 2026.
Temperatures are finally warming up across the country starting today. A mild westerly breeze moved in, pushing Seoul's daytime temperature to about 5 degrees Celsius, a bit warmer than usual for this time of year. Tomorrow morning will also be much milder than today, sitting around 0 degrees, so the cold will not be too harsh for a while. Even so, the air continues to be very dry. Along the East Coast, strong winds could blow as fast as around 15 meters per second. Please be extra careful, as even a small spark could cause a fire. Tomorrow morning, Chuncheon will start off at -6 degrees, Busan at 2 degrees. Daily highs will rise to 4 degrees in Seoul and Chuncheon, 7 degrees in Daejeon and Gwangju. Starting tomorrow morning, rain or snow is forecast in most parts of the country, except the eastern parts of Gangwon-do province, and it should continue into the following morning. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. Coming up right after this break is our daily panel session, so do stay with us. And as always, thank you for now.
Right now, the new shopping game is starting.
How to survive in Korea. Barbecue restaurants. Step 1. Taking care of your clothes. Put your jacket in the plastic bag. Seal it tight. If the stool flips open, store your clothes inside. Wearing light colors? Grab an apron. It's the best defense against oil splatter and smoke. Step 2. Bottomless side dishes. Basic side dishes at a barbecue restaurant. Eat, and eat as much as you want. Side dishes come with free refills. Oh, and if you don't see this sign, just ask, 사장님, 여기 밑반찬 좀 더 주세요. Simple, isn't it? Step 3. Grilling meat. There are various kinds of samgyeopsal in Korea. Place the meat on the grill. Turn it over when golden. And again when it looks done. Again and again and again. Step 4. Sam style. You aren't taking bites of sam like a taco, are you? In Korea, we have it in one bite. A pro tip here. Add only as much as you can handle in a bite. Gotta avoid awkward situations. Step 5. Enjoy the perks. After the meal, enjoy the perks offered as a Korean restaurant. Fabric refreshers get rid of the barbecue smell, while mint candies freshen your breath. Did you survive the barbecue restaurant? Hang on. Are you here with someone you want to impress? Then let's skip the garlic. Who knows what will happen?
Millennial and Gen Zs are reshaping the world. News generation shares their fresh perspectives on what's trending now. From global developments to everyday culture, we're diving into the stories that matter. This is News Generation.
For the first time in over 50 years, the US and Russia have no limits on their nuclear arsenal size, as the last remaining nuclear arms reduction treaty between them expired on February 5th, that is Thursday, last week. Hope your work week is off to a good start. You're watching Press Perspective for this Monday, February 9th here in Seoul. I'm Min Sun-hee. At midnight last Thursday, a 15-year-old agreement called the New Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, better known as New START, expired, which essentially ended decades of efforts to limit nuclear weapons development of the US and Russia that together account for almost 90% of the world's nuclear arsenal. For more on this, I have Rui Valdez with Spanish news agency EFE Spain here in the studio. Rui, welcome back.
Nice to be here, Sonia.
I also have Professor Kim Young-jin at the Korea National Defense University joining our talk virtually. Professor Kim, as always, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Right, Rui, let's start here in the studio. So let's begin with the end of the last remaining weapons control treaty between the US and Russia. What have the two countries said respectively about this reality?
Well, as you say, a very concerning reality that we woke up last Saturday midnight. There has not been an extension or more than a few meetings on a potential renewal of this treaty. Just to explain a little bit to the audience, the New START, it was signed in 2010 and then extended in 2021. And what it does, what it did, it limited or it capped the deployed nuclear weapons to 1,550 and 700 delivery systems per country. We have to understand that US and Russia account for about 87% of the world's nuclear weapons. So the fact that they both have this treaty was quite important for not expanding nuclear arsenals worldwide. Pretty much, as I just mentioned, they take the whole pie. Russia's position on this has been open. They want to discuss a potential extension. At least they mentioned something like extending the limits for 1 year, and that they are open to dialogue. But on the side of US, there is an element that could be a big factor because we don't really know the details of the meetings and let's say like the small wording or everything that is going on there. But what we know is that Donald Trump, the President of the United States, have expressed that he wants to include China and make a new deal. He has called the former deal a poorly negotiated, that was already violated, and he wants to make his own deal. This is very much in line with his administration of trying to brand everything under him, and also to include China goes also in line to this politics of trying to control the assertive China or the rise of Beijing. Being that said, Beijing actually only has 24 nuclear weapons deployed. It has 600 nuclear weapons overall, but deployment, when you compare it to the US and Russia, is very small. And as we will talk later, China has pointed out this. So right now we are in this impasse where if US insists China to come, China might never answer because they don't really have a comparison point. But let's see what Professor says about this, and also I have some comments further on.
Right. Professor Kim, for now, what we do know is that Mr. Trump has rejected Mr. Putin's proposal for a 1-year extension of the treaty. Why do you believe has Mr. Trump rejected this proposal? And why, as Rui mentioned, does the US leader insist on including China in a new trilateral nuclear pact?
This is not a new story. During the first Trump administration, already Trump administration suggested same idea, so-called CND, creating environment for nuclear disarmament in 2019, which is including the China, not just US and Russia. So Mr. Trump want to include China for a new arms control treaty, and China already said doesn't want to join because of the number of nuclear weapons is much less than the U.S. and Russia. U.S. and Russia dominated more than 90% of a number of nuclear weapons, but U.S. is really concerned about the Chinese arms race for nuclear and missile capability, and PLA has a lot of nuclear weapon system now. So the Trump second administration suggested same idea, and also Mr. Putin seems to enjoy it, but China will never join in, and for the same region. And Mr. Putin suggests why not just China? We need to include France and UK. So it'll be very difficult. It seems like very uncertain to have a new trilateral nuclear arms control treaty at this time. And now it's more nuclear arms race, the situation for a while.
Right. And Rui, what more can you tell us about China's response to Trump's suggestion of a trilateral nuclear control pact?
Yes, as Professor Kim, just to expand on it in the details, well, they clearly say it's not fair or reasonable to demand China to join nuclear reductions, given their much smaller arsenal. This, just to not be too repetitive, and thinking about the takeaways or what analysts also are saying, is that this impasse might put everybody in a state that we cannot expect a trilateral deal anytime soon. If Washington keeps pressuring on this, it goes against China saying, no, you have to first deal with Russia, first go to a similar deal that you had before, and then maybe you can jump to the conversation table with us, but you cannot try to englobe that in this new deal. So we're seeing again, since Trump administration began, another reason of tensions between the most powerful country of Asia and the United States. Of course, with Russia in the middle, with the war in Ukraine, these things also get much more complex. This strategic asymmetry seems that it's going to persist, apparently, from what analyst says, and that probably there's a risk of fragmentation, and instead, in the sense of now, since this is not binding control, we might see a new way of or of numbers of how countries develop their own nuclear weapons. How would they determine how much they can put as the new tab, or if there is even going to be a limit? So this can be a major shift in the whole nuclear scenario, but apparently there was some, there was some discussions in Abu Dhabi between Russia and US. They didn't get to any conclusion, and they're still open for trying to restart some kind of new deal. So we're gonna have to wait to see what happens, but for now, the perspective is not good.
Right. Against this backdrop, Professor Kim, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has voiced much concern, of course, over the end of this treaty, calling it, and I quote, a grave moment for global peace and security. I wonder, Professor Kim, do you share these concerns?
Absolutely. UN Secretary General concern on grave moment clearly show general feeling of international community. Because the world now face a world without any legal limit on nuclear arsenal, just like Louis already said. So the US and Russia together hold a vast majority of nuclear weapons, and now all great power like China, US, Russia pursue more nuclear capability and more missile capability. And North Korea, Iran, also want to develop their own nuclear weapon capability. And during the Russian-Ukraine war, everybody remember Putin has several times mentioned possible nuclear use for the war. This is the first time since the end of the Cold War. And now it's the world face the most dangerous situation in terms of nuclear weapon use. And this is a really great power competition. So that was a lot of problem anyway, just between nuclear weapon state and non-nuclear weapon state over the year. There is no consensus from the NPT Levy conference, so we have a lot of dangerous situation, and there will be a very the bad situation for nuclear arms race.
Right. Rui, as Professor Kim mentioned Iran's nuclear ambitions. Now, while Trump has been less enthusiastic about extending the US's nuclear control pact with Russia, he's been very adamant about cracking down on Iran's nuclear weapons ambitions. What's the latest on that front?
Yes, well, again, we have these two countries in a similar topic in what we could call an impasse. The big difference here is that, as we all remember, in June 22nd, the United States already bombed Iran nuclear facilities to stop allegedly the nuclear program in the country. Right now, on the side of the U.S., they're trying to, well, in the context of the current turmoil that is happening in Iran, Trump has already mentioned the possibility of intervening, and this has been going on already for many days. And he has mobilized military assets, and now is demanding, among other things, that Iran suspends things like uranium enrichment. Iran has mentioned that they will never stop this, no matter what other negotiation, what other outcome they get. It would not put that in the table to get zero enrichment that was mentioned by the U.S. Being that said, still they met over the weekend and the recent days, officials from both sides, they have mentioned from both sides also that it's progress, that it's a good sign that they can meet, see their faces. But again, as Trump was adamant on this, Iran keeps being adamant on that they will not renounce enrichment of uranium for defense or peaceful purposes, not for developing a weapon. Of course, the fear of the concern of the U.S. and many of the Western countries is that they could use that later, or they are already using it to develop nuclear weapons. But still, well, just to sum it a little bit up, in the sense of we have the administration of Donald Trump holding these meetings, but some analysts says that it's sending two contradictory signs. And I don't want to, I don't want to forecast that it's going to happen the same thing as in Venezuela. But there is a similar element in the sense that while they were talking and they were saying that they were going to negotiate with Maduro, that they were in talks with Maduro, they were moving military assets like warships or different things to put pressure in the country, in this case Iran, to give into the negotiations and stop the repression on their own citizens, etc., etc. We, of course, don't know if this is going to end the same. It's two very different contexts, two very different countries, but we do see these two contradicting signs. There's dialogue, but at the same time, there are military assets moving towards Iran.
Right, hence the mounting tensions in that particular region. Professor Kim, how do these latest events on the international stage look to affect efforts here on the Korean Peninsula to rid nuclear weapons, do you think?
That's a very interesting question. Trump has interestingly continued his same position from the first Trump administration. For example, very hawkish on NATO, China, and Iran. And this is really said peace through strength approach, sending military asset at the same time pressure on negotiation. But his position on North Korea is clearly very dovish after maximum pressure on fire and fury. And especially since the Hanoi and Singapore summit, Trump showed many times his love on the Kim Jong-un, or he want to have a talk with the Kim Jong-un, especially this spring. Maybe he will visit in China, and he want to have another negotiation talks with Kim Jong-un with a very pragmatic approach, not just denuclearization, but more nuclear arms control approach or more open approach to North Korean nuclear weapon program. So his approach to North Korean nuclear weapon program is very different from the Iran's position. So after peace effort to the Middle East and Russia-Ukraine war, the final target from his second administration term will be North Korea and Korean Peninsula, especially for a Nobel Peace Prize. So now we will see, and his position on North Korea has been never changed, and he want to have a different approach to North Korea.
Right, and speaking about North Korea, Rui, what has been shared about its upcoming ruling party Congress, and what do you think makes this Congress even more important this time around?
Yes, well, this Congress, we are all waiting for the exact date. Of course, as it happens with Pyongyang, it's sometimes never revealed, and we will know. But what we know is that recently they decided to hold it in late February. So it's going to be this month. This is the top decision-making body. The last meeting, just the last Congress, is 5 years ago. Usually what North Korea does is to plan ahead on the next 5 years in all the major sectors: diplomacy, economics, foreign affairs, etc., etc. What is different and what makes this special? Well, the context in comparison to the one 5 years ago is very different. We have North Korea that now has strengthened military and economic ties with Russia. What many experts says gives them less reasons to dialogue with United States or Seoul, which hasn't established dialogue with North Korea now for years. And what many are wondering is, I would say, at least in the foreign media, is mainly in two aspects. One is defense and the other one is foreign affairs. In the side of defense, 5 years ago, they announced they were going to develop the nuclear-powered submarines, the spy satellites, and other advanced military technologies. This promise, they have been giving updates recently with the submarines. They have showed that they are developing, apparently. They have shown pictures also of the missile Hwasong-20. So many of these things, just to understand, are announced in those Congress. So maybe in this Congress we will hear new weapons appearing, new technologies appearing, and also considering that Russia seems to be providing assistance, technical assistance to advance this, yeah, it's likely that there's novelty in that realm. On the other side, we have, of course, foreign affairs, and we want to know the relationship or what is going to be the policy directions in terms of Washington and Seoul. When it comes to Seoul, they're still rejecting dialogue. Still, even though there was some development of disapproval by the Security Council of United Nations to provide humanitarian aid to North Korea, North Korea has not responded yet, so still we are in the same silence as before. On the other hand, we have U.S. that Kim Jong-un and his people have kind of given a small window that they could be open for dialogue if U.S. is willing to stop putting a denuclearization issue in the table of negotiations. So everybody's wondering the rhetoric and the policies that Pyongyang will use in terms of these two countries. In general, what analysts say is that they don't expect that there's going to be any major positive sign for Seoul in terms of dialogue. Of course, this is all with very limited information. We don't know what can happen that day. In terms of U.S., they feel they could maintain that window open, maybe by mentioning that they open to dialogue again if the denuclearization topic is thrown off the table. And also, what everybody wants to know in terms of Seoul, and I think that would be a key to really know the temperature of the tensions or to have a better sense of the temperature of the tensions between the two Koreas, and it's regarding what Pyongyang, let's say a couple of years ago, started officializing Seoul or South Korea as a hostile state. But this, of course, since there has not been a Congress, hasn't been mentioned in such a major event. So if this is mentioned in such a major event, it could mean that, yeah, they're going to maintain this line at least for the next 5 years in principle. If they somehow refrain and they don't mention it, could be a positive sign that maybe they are seeing well what the efforts of the current Lee Jae-myung administration about cutting broadcasts or the recent humanitarian aid that apparently was proposed by the South Korean Minister of Foreign Affairs when he visited U.S. So these are the signs that we are mostly concerned about this Congress.
Right, and I suppose we'll know for sure within the end of this month. Professor Kim, in the meantime, so amid this anticipation of a North Korea's 9th ruling party Congress, this, interest has been reignited in Kim Jong-un's daughter, Kim Joo-ae. Now, some believe that she is indeed next in line to power. Others insist that she's simply there to enhance her father's image. What are your thoughts?
Yes, very interesting question. International society wait and see if Kim Joo-ae will be the first queen of North Korean regime or something. And many people guess and thought Kim Joo-ae will be an official successor after Kim Jong-un. But nobody knows at the moment, and nobody knows Kim Jong-un has a hidden son in the European country or India, and he will be the king. But over the years, Kim Jong-un's role has been very interesting and very unique, especially in North Korean political scene. It looks like North Korean version of Ivanka Trump is kind of princess in North Korean regime. Also, it's softening definitely image of a dictator Kim Jong-un and family-friendly image-making process. So it'll be it has been successful. And sometimes it's controversial. The public kiss scene on his father is very rare in Asian the politics. But anyway, as a MZ generation, young generation leadership of Kim Jong-un and Kim Yo-jong and Kim Joo-ae and Lee Seol-ju is all kind of a symbol of a new leadership of North Korean regime, and it shows kind of a North Korean vision for next step. So it's more like pragmatic and family-friendly, and not depends on inter-Korean relation or only relation with the U.S. For example, Kim Jong-un some days ago criticized openly on his grandfather's legacy, and also some years ago he criticized on his father Kim Jong-un's foreign policy legacy. Too much it depends on inter-Korean relation, kind of a Hyundai facility in Gyeongbang Mountain or something like that. This is kind of tough. So we need to understand what Kim Jong-un really wants to do by showing Kim Joo-ae in public persona. So so far, it has been successful, and we'll see if she will become the first queen of North Korea. But we don't know now, but a very important and interesting question.
Right, I suppose the future will tell us then. All right, Professor Kim, I'm afraid that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for your insights today.
Thank you very much.
Andrew, thank you very much for your time and your thoughts.
Thank you, Sanghi.
Right, that ends this edition of Press Perspective. As always, thank you for watching. See you same time tomorrow.